What's good, Atlanta? This is the Blog and Dirty Podcast, where Dirty Bird is the word if you haven't heard. I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer, fansided.com. Got an exciting show for you guys today. This is coming to you just before the release of the 2025 NFL regular season schedule. I'll talk about that more on next week's show, but right off the top, I just wanted to say got a few things here that I think we need to talk about really quickly. Zach Klein of WSB, his intel says that the Falcons will have 4 primetime games, 2 Monday Night Football games with the Bills and the Rams, both at home, and then 2 SNF games at the Vikings and at the 49ers. This also includes, we have the international game versus the Colts over there in Berlin. So I'll talk about that more later on when it comes to the schedule. Once we have that all set, give me a little more time to kind of react to that. But yeah, a lot of primetime games potentially on the horizon for the Falcons. This is a team that has a lot of star potential, but you also have to remember hasn't had a winning season since 2017. So let's get excited for that. But we're going to move on to our first topic of the day. We're going to go around the perimeter with a little bit more fallout with Derek Carr's abrupt retirement. What does this mean for the Atlanta Falcons and the entire NFC South? This game is a bit of a shock on Saturday, early afternoon. I'm dog sitting over in Buckhead, and I see, oh man, Derek Carr has decided to hang it up after 11 years in the NFL, mostly with the Raiders, a little bit with the Saints. We knew that he was dealing with some sort of shoulder or wrist thing. He's had operations on that arm before. I think it was like a degenerative thing. So I feel bad for him in some aspects, but he made a lot of money. But more importantly, I think he was able to have a very successful career, mostly with the silver and black, despite them being incredibly dysfunctional. He overcame all odds to be a really good player for them. Also, the fact that he had to overcome his brother being one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history, most notably of the Texans. But this certainly removes the Saints from any sort of consideration of being a fringe playoff contender this year. This is going to be probably the worst team in the NFC South going away. We know that Tampa's had a stranglehold on the division for a while. We know that Atlanta's trending up. We also know that Carolina might be trending up too. So this really dampers with what the Saints could do. I think what this does, with this being the NFL schedule release day here, every time I do this, like because of the NFC South and because of the nature of the division, I cannot in good faith ever say like, oh, the Falcons are going to do better than 4-2 in division. I just don't think it's practical. I know what this division's about. But every year it's like, okay, split with 2 teams, and then there's one team you got to sweep. And last year the team you had to sweep was the Panthers. You ended up sweeping the Buccaneers. This year the team you got to sweep is the Saints. Look, I know this is the Falcons' biggest rival and whatnot, but like you got to kick them while they're down. The Saints have kind of had the upper hand over us the last several years, but like again, they haven't made the playoffs since 2020, and they've kind of been, in a little bit of a quagmire in the post Drew Brees, Sean Payton era. But what this says for the Saints is their quarterback room now is third-year player Jake Haener interestingly enough, out of Fresno State. Spencer Rattler, second-year player out of South Carolina by way of Oklahoma, and then a rookie, Tyler Shuck, who was born in the very late 1990s. He is a rookie, second-round pick out of Louisville, had played at both Oregon and Texas Tech. So that's the quarterback room that Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier are going to be working with this year. This leads me to believe that they're going to be, I don't know if tank mode is really the right word, but like the chances of the Saints drafting someone next year, whether that be Doug Nussmeier's son, Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, Drew Aller out of Penn State. And we'll see what happens with the likes of Arch Manning out of Texas, Lenore Sellers out of South Carolina, or Sam Levitt out of Arizona State. I think those 3 guys are more inclined to basically return to school for one more year. Very much think that Manning is going to do that, because why would the Manning family feed the third generation of that family to the Wolves after 1 year? We know that Eli and Peyton started for multiple years, did not turn pro until after their 4th year in school. And Archie, he was a great player, a fantastic player at Ole Miss, really good player for the Saints, but the Saints were an expansion team when he played for them. So he had to kind of deal with the consequences of all that. So This retirement for the Saints means they're going to be looking for a quarterback very heavily entering the 2026 draft. I think the timing of it all is weird. Like, they couldn't get a definitive answer out of Carr up until the draft. It was very just, I remember seeing what was it Jane Slater of NFL Network just putting out like what was going on. It was just so much information, so much convoluted stuff. He said, she said, whatnot. But Derek Carr's hung up the spikes. Again, I did cover the loss, the then Oakland Raiders for a year prior to being hired full-time at Fansided. I have a lot of respect for Derek Carr. Think that he did a lot with very challenging circumstances, but it's going to be even more challenging for the Saints. As far as what this means for the division, like I'd be shocked if the Saints won more than 4 games this year. They're going to beat somebody in division. It might be us. It might be the Bucs. It might be the Panthers. But I struggle to see them winning more than 2 games this year in divisional play. Again, I do not know off the top of my head who the Saints are playing this year. But like, I know looking at the Falcons schedule, and I'll talk about that here a little bit more with who their opponents are. You got to win the games in division, because I think the out of division games, whether that would be who we are drawing with divisional rotations, who the Falcons, the Saints, Buccaneers, Panthers are playing as part of competitive balance, like it's not easy. But this signifies that the Saints are not going to be asked to do much this year. They're going to really struggle. And that's good news for the Falcons, Buccaneers, and Panthers. It'll be interesting to see who takes advantage of that. Moving on to our next topic, kind of semi-adjacent. Let's go with some you like that. How does Derek Carr's retirement impact Kirk Cousins' trade market? Simply put, I talked about this on the previous episode. The Saints, given the nature of what was going on with Derek Carr's health, entered the fray after the draft, kind of even more so as a potential player for Kirk Cousins. Again, you're looking at it like, okay, are you really going to go with Tyler Shuck, Jay Kanner, or Spencer Rattler quarterback in a division that has Michael Penix Jr., Bryce Young, and Baker Mayfield? And also Kirk Cousins is backing up Penix in Atlanta. So you're coming up 5th in a division of 4 teams at quarterback. Like this isn't good. So Kirk Cousins' trade market entering the draft, there were 3 teams that were vying for him, most notably the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would argue that the Browns are still somewhat in play, but not really. The Vikings are not, because they've traded for former North Carolina star, Washington quarterback, Seattle quarterback, Sam Howell, and he's going to back up J.J. McCarthy this year. He might be better than J.J. McCarthy. We'll see. We'll find out later. But the Steelers are still very much in play, because their 2 quarterbacks of note are Mason Rudolph and the next Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. Again, we know that the Steelers are going to do everything in their power under Mike Tomlin to win about, 9-10 games, maybe max this year. But like the idea is they could always upgrade. Aaron Rodgers is still out there to be had in free agency. We'll see if he still wants to play. Cousins is still out there, potentially on the trade market. I think he'd be able to find a lot of success with Pittsburgh. But again, it takes 2 to tango, and you got to have 2 partners to make a trade happen. So let me put it this way. With Carr retiring, that opens up definitively one more team where a player of Cousins' caliber could conceivably go to and win the starting job. Right now, I would say that his trade market is the Steelers, is the Saints, and then maybe the Browns. There could be a 4th or 5th team that emerges in due time. But it's very much like it's almost like Pittsburgh or bust at this point. Again, Aaron Rodgers is taking his sweet time to figure out what he wants to do. If he wants to play, he'll go play for Pittsburgh. If he doesn't want to play, then Pittsburgh's got to make a decision. Do they go with Rudolph? Do they bring in Cousins? How do they make the money work? How do they orchestrate a trade with Atlanta? A lot at play here. But I think, again, I talked about this on the previous episode, that like the idea of trading Cousins to the Saints, do you really want to go there? Like what I'm implying is, yes, he could wreck the Saints and it could look great for us, but we also know what it's like to have egg on our face. We get that pretty much every year here, rooting for and supporting this team. So again, like what this does with Carr retiring is it opens up more leverage for a team like the Falcons to potentially trade their high-end backup quarterback and Kirk Cousins. It's not by a lot, but it is something. And I think it also really comes down to what the Steelers want to do, and more importantly, what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. So the chapter on this book has not fully been written, but we haven't closed the book just yet. So be patient here. We may see some action here in the coming weeks and months, but right now, the Saints are really in dire straits at quarterback. They could use a player like Cousins, but I don't know if Atlanta really has the stones to trade him there. I don't think most people would. Moving on to our next topic here, we're going to look good, feel good, play good, pay good. Very excited about this. Jalon Walker, James Pearce Jr., they're under contract, which is great for the Falcons. And, all 5 of their draft picks have also signed their rookie deals too, whether that would be Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman, and I believe Jack Nelson. I'm still learning their names and everything like that. This is significant, and I'll take a few minutes here to explain why that is. Look, the last thing you want to have is like a first-round pick holding out. Like you don't want to have this become a thing. And we're seeing the Bengals have a miserable time with this. Trey Hendrickson doesn't want to play on a 1-year, $21 million contract for the Bengals this fall. Shamar Stewart, their number 17 overall pick out of Texas A&M, is like, yeah, I'm not going to play at all in rookie minicamp, despite the fact he had, 4 sacks in his entire A&M career. That pick seems to run counter to what the Bengals typically do. We've also seen in the past. I remember Joey Bosa having a long and lengthy holdout with like the Chargers over money. Kelly Stouffer back in the day didn't want to play for the then Phoenix Cardinals. You don't want to have your first round pick, or you don't even want your day 2 or 3 picks to be like, I don't know if I want to go here. I think, they may not have had a lot of choice in the matter because they were drafted, but put pen to paper. I know we live in the wonderful world of NIL, but you also have to remember, for the most part, that like a lot of these guys have not made major money. And like, this is life-changing money that a lot of these guys are signing, and you have to respect that. All these guys are getting multiple year deals. Obviously, players like Walker and Pearce will eventually have the 5th-year option potentially given to them. We'll see what happens. We hope so, but that may not always be the case. But as for Watts, Bowman, and Nelson, like this is their opportunity to make it happen, as day 2 and 3 picks. I think really what it comes down to for me is you want guys who want to be here, especially when you're trying to go from halfway decent to good to great to outstanding. You want players that buy in. You want players that are, non-dissenters. You want players that are going to accentuate your culture, build upon that, and give you the best chance to opportunity to succeed. Because winning's hard. Winning is hard in sports. It's really difficult in football. Everybody says, oh, these people are stupid or nobody works hard. Everybody in the NFL and college football works hard and is incredibly smart. I mean, maybe a little bit tongue in cheek there, but the margin for error for a win and loss in this league is razor thin. Like you ask yourself, what's the best team in the NFL? The Eagles. What's the worst team in the NFL? This past year was the Titans. If they were to meet in Philadelphia for a game, what would the Eagles be laying? 17 points? If this was the SEC and you would have Texas hosting, I don't know, who's the worst team in the SEC right now? Kentucky. In Austin, like the Longhorns might be laying 35 plus points. Like this is what I'm talking about. The difference between the number 1 team in the league and the number 32 team in the league is not by much. It's significant, and you can tell, but the margins aren't there in the NFL as they are in college football. But I like the fact that you've got all 5 of these guys under contract. I like that they get to work with Raheem Morris, with Jeff Ulbrich, with Zach Robinson in Nelson's case and everything like that. You basically want to have guys getting as many reps as possible at this crucial time of the year, not just rookie minicamp, but, during training camp, the preseason, what have you, an opportunity to get better faster. And I think with this being year 2 of the coaching staff, the big thing is they've learned from what worked and what did not work the year prior. So they're going to be getting better faster at what they're doing. So the last thing you want is for guys just to, be sitting on the sidelines in street clothes, just, waiting to put pen to paper. Being out ahead of this is a good thing. So I'll always be in favor of players being under contract and having the guarantees or whatever works for them. But you can only make so much money in sports. There's a finite amount of athleticism and health in these guys' bodies. You got to get it while you can. And, I hate to see people like ruin their careers over something silly as money or, whatever it is. But again, I'm very happy that all 5 of the Falcons draft picks are under contract. Let's move on to the second half of our show with playoffs. You kidding me? USA Today Sports projects that Atlanta will go 9-8 with their schedule. Again, we don't know exactly what the order is. We do know the home and road teams here. So I'll look at this real quick. What is it up? I'm trying to see if I find this on here. Yes, Jacob Kamiker of USA Today wrote about this. I know he's been writing for a long time, specializes covering Washington sports. So that's kind of where his allegiances are. But, looking at the Falcons record, he says that the Falcons have not made the playoffs since 2017. They are playing NFC South, which again, projects as an easier division. The Falcons have the 4th easiest strength of schedule for 2025 per Sharp Football Analysis. Take it or leave it with whatever Warren Sharp decides to say. Kamiker mentions that the Falcons went 4-2 in division last year, sweeping the Buccaneers. But the problem is their non-divisional schedule is a bit more difficult. Kamiker mentions that there's winnable home games versus the Seahawks, the Dolphins, and you've got favorable road games with obviously the Colts in Berlin and the Jets. So that all is kind of coming up here for the Falcons, where there are wins to be had, but you have to go out and get them. So I'm looking at the Atlanta Falcons schedule, on their website, and obviously we don't have the order just yet. Again, we know that the road game at the Colts will actually be in Berlin. We've also learned from Zach Klein that the road dates at the 49ers and at the Vikings, I believe on Sunday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken, will be, they will be road games for Sunday Night Football. And then you have the home games versus the Bills and the Rams. Those will be, I believe those will be Monday night games as well. So I'm looking at this. Here's exactly what's going on with the Falcons right now with their schedule. So you've got 70-game season. You've got your 6 divisional opponents, Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You play them all home and away. That's 6 games. It looks as though from this schedule that the Falcons or the entire NFC South plays the AFC East in its entirety. I think that's a much easier division to navigate than expected. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are the favorite in there. I don't really like the direction Miami's going. We get those both at home. And then obviously, I think the Patriots will be a lot better than expected. And then the Jets, who knows? And, I'm one of the biggest Jets haters known to mankind. You got to get some wins there. And then you're looking across the board. You're also playing the NFC West in its entirety. I think this is a very competitive division. You get the Rams and Seahawks at home, and then you got to play the 49ers and the Cardinals away. Again, you can't lose at home embarrassingly to the Seahawks again. That's just not acceptable. I think the Rams, I'm not as high on the Rams as everybody else is. Everyone's like, oh, they won a playoff game. They lost the snow to the Eagles. When an NFL team does something, listen to them. I think the Rams are, this is the last year that they've got any sort of chance of being competitive in their competitive life cycle. Matthew Stafford, a fellow Georgia guy, 2 years older than me, been playing the league for a very long time. I'm 35, about to be 36. He's 37, going on 38. We'll see how much longer he's going to keep doing this. So, again, I'm not as high on the Rams or the Seahawks. We'll see what happens with the 49ers. I kind of view them as the equivalent of the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFC, where it's this team can contend for a Super Bowl. This team could also win 6 games. Again, they got to pay Brock Purdy, and the instant they do that, their Super Bowl window closes. And then I'm really high on the Arizona Cardinals. I think that they've got a fantastic general manager in Monty Austin-Fort. Jonathan Gannon may be a raging dork as a head coach, but he gets the buy-in from his players and what have you. A lot of good things are going in that direction as well. The big thing that I would say with the Cardinals is, I thought they had a great draft. I thought that, they took some flyers on Walter Nolan and what have you. I think that Arizona is looking up, but again, they have to get there just like the Falcons do. So I think 9-8's fair. I think, the best of this team could maybe do is 12-5, but again, that's really reaching. They went 8-9 last year. They'd gone 7-10 the 3 years prior. I'm more okay with this projection, not knowing the game's order, the time and everything like that. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more on next week's show, but it's fine. Again, we have to earn what we need to get in here at this point. So it is what it is. Moving on to the penultimate topic here, we're going to blow the whistle on this abbreviated show. Will the Atlanta Falcons overachieve their projected 9-8 mark to finally make the NFC playoffs again? Hell yeah, baby. We're blowing that whistle, man. We're blowing that train whistle. Let's effing go. So I've been looking at this. I'm spending a little more time on this to try to unpack this a little bit better. Here's how I'm going to see it. Okay. Like I said at the start of the program, I see us going 4-2 in the division. You split with the Buccaneers because I don't think we're gonna sweep them again. I think that's kind of a little bit far-fetched. Probably split with the Panthers. Hopefully we sweep the Saints. So that's 4 wins right there. We got to get 5 more on the resume. And here's kind of how I'm looking at this. Games that I think are going to be challenging. I think that the road games are much easier than the home games. Removing the Panthers, the Saints, and the Buccaneers from the equation, I think the road game at Minnesota might be challenging. But again, if Michael Penix Jr. is better than J.J. McCarthy, we could get that. I think the Vikings have a very talented roster. Again, I'm not really so bullish on us winning in Minneapolis, but it could happen. Again, for whatever reason, I don't know, the San Francisco and the Arizona dates seem a little ominous as well. So let's just say those 3 are probably losses. If we're looking at it from the home games and stuff, Buffalo might be challenging and Washington might be challenging. Again, we got the reigning NFL MVP coming in here and Josh Allen and the Bills. And then we got the best quarterback drafted in the first round, more so than Penix, Jaden Daniels, number 2 to the Commanders. Can't believe the Bears passed on him. I don't know what they're doing. Those are the 2 games on the home schedule that I'm okay, probably not winning that. So those are probably the 5 games I would say, if we're going to go 12-5, those are the 5 you're losing. That leaves us with, I think, 5 games plus 6 games, 11. So that leaves us with 6 games or so, 6, 11, yeah, where they're kind of up in the air. Again, I feel that the Rams game, the Seahawks game, the Dolphins game, Patriots, Jets, and Colts, those games, you got to win. You got to win 5 of those games? I think, you got to win 5 of those games, I think, to get in. I'm trying to do the math here. Going off the top of my head. I'm doing the math wrong here, but you got to get 5. You got to get 5 more wins outside of the division, basically. So I'm looking at this. I would say you got to win the Dolphins game at home, and I think you probably got to get 1 between the Rams and the Seahawks. That's 2. If you're going to go away from the division on the road, I think you got to beat the Patriots and you got to beat the Jets, and I think you got to beat the Colts. That will get you to 9-8. And I think if you're going to win this division, you got to win about 10 games because, maybe 11 will clinch it. But again, Tampa Bay was not quite there. I think it's really going to come down to the litmus test game of that Rams date. I think you beat Seattle. So I'm looking at this. Let's say let's say you win all 3 division games at home with Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa. Okay, that's 3-0. And then let's say you beat Washington 4-0 at home. You lose to Buffalo and Miami. That's what, 4-2. Let's say you get 6-2 at home. You beat the Rams and Seahawks. You lose to the Bills and the Commanders. So you're 6-2 at home. Then on the road, okay, you beat the Panthers. You beat the Patriots. No, you don't beat the Panthers. You lose the Panthers. You beat the Patriots. You beat the Saints. You beat the Jets. You beat the Colts. That'll get you to 10-7. And that means losses to Arizona, Carolina, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Minnesota. So you're looking at that right now. Again, we don't have the order spelled out perfectly, but I think they can get to 10-7. And again, what you have to remember is the Falcons are being hyped up right now with Penix, with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Jalen Walker, James Pearce, Jesse Bates III, Chris Lindstrom, et cetera, as a team that should make the playoffs. They should be better. And again, I look at the team a year ago. There were a lot of games we gave away. I think particularly that the coaching malpractice for Jimmy Lake versus the Panthers and the Commanders, that cost us. And then, I think that I'm trying to think, you won the game you shouldn't have, you lost the game you shouldn't have versus the Saints. The Buccaneers, probably thankful to get the sweep there. The Chargers game, I'll never understand what happened. We'll see what happens across the board with the other teams, but I would say right now, without knowing the order of the games, I'm going to blow the whistle on a positive yes that the Falcons are going to improve their mark and they're going to go 10-7, and maybe they'll do better than that. We'll see what happens. I think that the upside's there. Again, this is so much contingent on Penix really popping here, and I think we're going to finish the show with this final topic with some big Penix energy. Michael Penix Jr. needs to prove his worth in year 2 of his rookie contract. I'll take a sip of coffee here real quick to try to get talking for 27 minutes straight. Okay, here's basically what's going on. So Nick Shook of NFL.com ranked the NFL's best quarterbacks that are still in a rookie contract. I think they had 15 of them, and I think he had Penix coming in at 8, so right smack dab in the middle. 1 ahead of J.J. McCarthy at 9. We've also got Jaden Daniels at 1 on this list with the Commanders, Caleb Williams at 6, and Bo Nix at 7. Again, I don't really know the exact order of operations here, just kind of knowing that Penix is smack dab in the middle. He went 1-2 as a starter. He beat the Giants, which everybody did, and I don't think we lost because it was his fault versus the Panthers and Commanders down the stretch. Again, I think it was the defense more so than anything, and at least those 2 games were competitive. But this is why you gotta be confident with your quarterback, and you take him high and you take him in the first round, because 1, you need that 5th-year option. I understand that a lot of times they don't play under it because you extend them earlier than that, but the idea of stashing a guy for a year, I mean, obviously McCarthy was different because he got hurt, and it was all according to plan with it being Sam Darnold. Again, the Falcons' plan was let's stash him. Let's do what the Packers did with Jordan Love backing up Aaron Rodgers. Well, Cousins didn't play very well, and we had to insert him there very late in the season. But thank God we did. We found out that Penix might be able to really play. We enter this season with a lot more certainty than we did entering the 2023 season. We're maybe Desmond Ridder could do it. Turns out he couldn't do it because, Falcons went 2-2 in his 4 starts when we wasted our time with Marcus Mariota. The point is, the sooner the Falcons start having to pay Penix a lot of money, you're going to see more and more guys on this team not be a part of it. The NFL salary cap is going to continue to grow, and it will keep growing, for as long as the NFL remains the United States of America's most popular sport. We're obviously trying to increase the pie. We're trying to increase the reach of the sport with Roger Goodell's never-ending quest of wanting to go play more and more international games. Again, feel like it kind of dilutes the product in some ways. Obviously, you're showcasing your biggest product to other markets that might be interested in the NFL. We know that London loves the NFL. We know that Dublin loves college football. We're going to see how Berlin will take. I think Berlin and Germany will be big fans of this. We've played a lot in Mexico. We've seen some stuff in Brazil. Again, we're kind of looking at like what soccer-centric countries, rugby, if you will buy into the NFL a little bit more. But let's just hope that we're not playing like a Super Bowl international. That's just utterly sacrilegious. I mean that's more blasphemous than some people feel about Pete Rose and Sheila Steer Jackson getting reinstated by baseball posthumously by Rob Manfred. So great job there. Basically, with Penix, we got to know like definitively by the end of this year if he's our franchise quarterback for the future. We think he is. There's a lot of stuff that he does well that intrigues me. Again, very confident at the line of scrimmage, throws a very beautiful spiral, a powerful left-handed arm. Again, his receivers have to get a little bit more on the same page with what he wants to do, just rifling that pigskin. It comes up on guys a lot quicker than Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, or really anybody who's played quarterback for this team since Michael Vick. Maybe we just got to keep drafting left-handed guys with absolute howitzers. Again, the left-handedness doesn't seem to bother me or really anybody on this team. We just know that the ball's going to come out a little bit different. But again, like I'm looking at the other quarterbacks, ahead of him on this depth chart. Again, we know like the 6 guys who were quarterbacks taken in the 2024 NFL draft in the first round. I mean, if I have to remove Penix from the equation, I will probably rank the other 5, and we can insert him wherever we feel. I feel number 1, the best guy is Jaden Daniels by a country mile, not even close. That guy's special. Even though I've got him behind here getting sacked by Jalon Breadman Carter. After that, I would probably go with Bo Nix played the best of the other 3. Again, I think he's in a perfect system for himself there with the Denver Broncos, with Sean Payton giving him all the answers on the test. I think the fact that he started for 5 years, 2 at Oregon and 3 at Auburn before that, really sets him up for success as well. After that, I think you probably got to go Caleb Williams. Again, he's got a mega talent there. Again, I think he's a little bit of a loose cannon above the shoulders. Bears are inherently dysfunctional. Again, I don't really trust Ben Johnson coming in from Detroit thinking he's going to be able to fix it because we had a Pope get elected from Chicago more sooner than we got a 4,000-yard passer in the Bears history. After that, I'd probably throw Drake May. Again, his first year with the Patriots, they wasted it with Gerard Mayo. Mike Vrabel is going to come in and hopefully help him out a little bit. Mega talent, but I kind of wonder if he's just too nice to overcome the Patriots' inherent dysfunction of late. And then, Penix, we'll see where he goes. And then 6 is obviously J.J. McCarthy. Again, I'm probably the biggest J.J. McCarthy hater known to mankind. He's kind of just Zach Wilson who played at Michigan, basically. That's how I feel about him. But I would say right now, if Penix can be – again, I'm probably higher on Penix more than I am Drake May and Caleb Williams, to be straight with you. And again, I'm a Falcons fan. I'm biased here. But if he's as good as what we saw Jaden Daniels last year or as good as what Bo Nix was for Denver, then I think we got our guy. Again, if he's in that same cluster of guys where it's like, Williams and May, where it's like, okay, there's promise here, but we got to see a little more, that's fine. But we got to get a definitive answer by like year 3 before the 5th-year option comes. The last thing we need is for him to stay – I don't know if he's even still part of it, but to have him in that same group with McCarthy where we just don't know. We need to know. We deserve to know. It's absolutely paramount that, Penix starts the bulk of the games this year, if not all of them. I hope he stays healthy, but maybe for that reason, maybe it's not the end of the world to hold on to Cousins because we know he can play. Again, like he's under contract. We'll see what happens here. You really want Easton Stick out there playing in a game that matters? That'd be embarrassing. No way we're going to win that game. Unless we hand the ball off to Bijan Robinson and Tyler Rozier the whole time. But yeah, Penix needs to prove his worth here in year 2. And most importantly, I think he's going to. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Kind of an abbreviated episode. I got to write something here pretty quickly with regards to the news that Zach Klein put out there. But again, we're going to try with a false start exit to the show here. This was episode 1. This is episode 41 of the Blog and Dirty Podcast. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow the show on YouTube at Blog and Dirty FS. You can follow along with Blog and Dirty on Twitter at Blog and Dirty. Be sure to watch, like, comment, subscribe, review to the Blog and Dirty Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. Really helps the show go. Got a lot of subscribers the last couple of days. We went from 281 to 286. We were at 283 for a while. I'm really glad we're not there anymore. Really pushing closer to 300 here. So I'm really excited about that. Be sure to read all the written work about the Atlanta Falcons across the Fanside Network, whether that be at Blog and Dirty, the website I write for, fanside.com. Our regional betting network does stuff for ATL Day, my first site. Just consume fan-sided content, minute media content. You want to read stuff at Sports Illustrated, that's good too. It's all coming together here. But yeah, definitely excited to see what happens with the schedule release. I'll have better takes, more informed takes this time next week. Again, this is just the timing of the show. This is when we can do it at 11 o'clock on Wednesdays. Obviously, the schedule release will be coming out in full, I think, at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Zach Klein's intel is right and that, the Falcons are playing 4 primetime games. We already know that the Falcons have confirmed that we will be playing the Colts over there in Berlin. That'll be an interesting game. Got to win that game. Definitely have to. Can't lose to the Colts. Can't lose to Anthony Richardson, man. He's not good. But you're good. I love talking to you guys. I love getting to know you guys. Dirty Bird Nation, enjoy the schedule release tonight. Once again, thanks for listening. And this is the Bloggin' Dirty Podcast.